Hello, everyone. I'd like to just give a few more participants just another minute to join the webinar, and I'd like to ask those of you who have already joined us to just comment in the chat section if you're able to hear us clearly. And we're looking forward to getting started in just another minute. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for Creatio's webinar. Today is a very special occasion because we will be showcasing our unified low-code platform for banks and discussing how to move your staff from 10 screens to 1. My name is Creatio, and I'm looking forward to joining one of my colleagues as we discuss some of the unique capabilities in detail. We hope to make this a very interactive discussion today, so we welcome you to post all of your questions in the chat section throughout the webinar. And then following the discussion, we will provide all participants with a recording of the webinar and responses to any unanswered questions. But again, we invite you to post your questions in the chat section while we have this discussion today. So we've established an agenda for this discussion today, and first we'll introduce our speaker, Eric Hale, and tell you a bit about Creatio. Next, we will talk about what banking customers want and what they need from a CRM. Next, we will we'll discuss Creatio's process-driven CRM and BRM capabilities for banks specifically, followed by 3 customer cases that really emphasize our unique capabilities for banking and financial services. And lastly, we will open up our Q&A. And again, I just want to invite you to submit any and all of your questions in the chat section. We hope to make this a very interactive discussion today. Now I'd like to hand it off to my colleague and our speaker for this afternoon, Eric. So Eric, please take it away and give yourself an introduction.
There we go. Sorry, guys. Couldn't take myself off mute. Thanks, Cray. I really appreciate the introduction. Hope everybody can hear me okay. But as Cray had indicated, I'm Eric Hale. I've been with Creatio for a little over 2 years, and in the industry for more years than I'd probably like to admit here in public. But in my current role at Creatio, I am responsible for aligning our sales strategy across the organization. But I also work with our clients, specifically in the financial services vertical, to help them develop their CRM and business process automation strategies. We also help them develop, roadmaps for how they can transform their business to meet growing customer needs within the financial service industries. So I'm happy to join everybody today. I think we have some great content, and we'll be talking about 3 specific use cases that are great examples of how banks are adapting to the changing environments that we're all seeing today. So thank you again for joining.
Great, thank you, Eric. And I'm glad that you'll be leading this discussion today, as you always do a fantastic job doing so. While we talk about some of our capabilities, I know that Eric will do a great job in diving into this deep discussion, but I'd like to give you just a quick overview about Creatio. And while this will be a reminder for many of you, we want to emphasize today that Creatio is a globally diverse organization with 5 offices around the globe, housing over 600 employees. We have thousands of customers, again, a globally diverse organization with thousands of customers from all over the world across industries, as we are an industry agnostic platform. We have 600 partners, consultants, and system integrators, or more than, excuse me, and we are highly recognized by key industry analysts such as Gartner and Forrester, and we continue to grow on this recognition as we expand our capabilities. And I'd like to take a moment to just emphasize our mission. At Creatio, we believe that we've created a world where any business idea can be automated within minutes. And we achieve this through our unique differentiating capabilities. We now like to refer to these as our Creatio superpowers, and we highlight them here for you. The BPM engine to change processes faster, a low-code platform to make everyone a developer, and a unified CRM to align sales, service, and marketing initiatives. These are three differentiators that help Creatio deliver immense value to our customers. And again, while Creatio is an industry agnostic solution, we feel that these superpowers, support many of our banking and financial services companies in particular. We are recognized by key industry analysts. This is our Gartner recognition. We are emphasized in 5 Gartner Magic Quadrants, the former 2 speaking to our low-code and process automation capabilities, and the latter 3 focusing on our CRM and Salesforce automation capabilities. We are a leader in the CRM for in the Magic Quadrant for CRM lead management, and a leader in the Magic Quadrant for Salesforce automation. We've also achieved impressive recognition from Forrester. We are included in 7 Forrester waves. 2 of these Forrester waves listed initially are speaking to our low-code and process management capabilities, while the latter 5 are speaking to our CRM and SFA capabilities. We're very proud to have received a position in 7 Forrester waves. It's a huge accomplishment for an organization, and we are actually listed as a strong performer in each of these Forrester waves. So again, we're very proud of this recognition. We continue to hone the relationships with our key industry analysts and grow this recognition, across our capabilities. On to you, Eric.
Great, thanks, Corey. Great summary of the company and our superpowers. So I guess we'll have to think of some superhero names for both of us, but we'll work on that. So what we're going to be talking about today is the changing environment, right? So if we look at the world around us, the world's changing, and consumer expectations are changing. And I think that, as we develop our plans, it's really important to understand consumer expectations. To kind of put that into perspective, let's think about how we communicate and the way that that's evolved. There was a time where if you wanted to reach out to a financial institution, you either sent a letter or placed a phone call. But as communication channels grew, you were able to send an email, maybe go out on the website, have an online chat. Then you're able to communicate through social media. And if we look to, today, we actually have, chatbots available where you don't even necessarily need to speak to a human. You can either go through an IVR that's going to answer your question, or have a chatbot, a discussion with a chatbot online. Banking consumers are used to those expectations, being able to engage with you when and where they want to. They also have a lot of choices or a lot of options when choosing a financial institution. They have banks of all sizes, from large, banks down to local community banks. They have the option to go with credit unions. Today we're seeing things from, like online banks like Chime. And what about, the competition that we don't see? What is going to happen in the future? How long before large tech companies like Amazon become viable options for them? Maybe we can take any questions in the chat about, who has the Apple credit card right now. It really will be the companies that manage their consumer expectations that will be able to excel and win in this market where we are, highly driven by consumer behavior. So before we jump into the presentation, I think this is a great place to stop and take a quick poll to see which options you think banking customers most want out of their organizations. So are we able to launch that poll real quick, guys?
Yes.
All right.
Great. So for this poll, we want to ask each of you to participate. And the question that we're asking you is, what are the top wants of bank customers? We have our options listed here. And how about while we take a moment to take this poll, we actually just take a question from the chat section. Eric, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't we do that, Ray?
All right, so our first question is, how does a financial services business differentiate itself with leads?
Got it. Yeah, so that's a great question, right? So I just had mentioned, the amount of competition that you have within the financial services industry. So how do you differentiate yourself, from your competitors? And I think that that's really by, understanding specific business needs, right? Being able to create customer profiles and really send targeted messages to those individuals, right? If you take a shotgun approach to how you market to individuals or how you approach and message individuals or organizations, you're going to miss a lot of opportunity to differentiate yourself. So being able to understand, a customer's behavior or their wants or their needs, and being able to deliver a message that's targeted to them will help differentiate yourself from other vendors that are taking that shotgun approach. So that would be my biggest suggestion in that area. Really understand customer buying behavior and have that customer profile built.
Great, thank you so much, Eric. That's a really helpful response for our audience today. Let's take a look and see if we can get the answer to our poll that we had our participants take place in. And it looks like the winner is, give me anytime, anyplace access to my balance. I agree, this is definitely something that our banking customers would like to see. While many of these other capabilities are extremely helpful, this is definitely something that can be accomplished using Creatio. So now that we've received some feedback from the audience, let's keep going, Eric.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting feedback, guys. That's great. So there was a recent poll that was taken by CGI, and it's going to be kind of interesting to show how we have compared with this this poll that came up through CGI. So within your poll, it said that give me access to any time, any place information to your balance. Well, that did rank high within this study, but number one was reward me for my business. So it's kind of interesting to see the dynamic here. But I think what this really speaks to is, again, those organizations that are going to be able to adapt to consumer expectations are going to excel. So, in this study, I can kind of see this, right? Reward me for my business. Consumers have a lot of options when it comes to choosing a financial institution. So they want to feel, like they're being rewarded for choosing, that specific organization's products. So rewarding me for my business, is of utmost importance. So whether that's, maybe it's discounts at, a local shop, or, maybe it's a rewards program where they can build up points for travel. But anyway, those organizations that are, offering some sort of reward for doing business with them, and that helps keep your customers happy, and it also helps with retention. The less likely they are to leave the institution. Access to information, so balances, not only just your deposit account, but maybe credit card balances, loan balances. Having any time, any place access to that is very important, right? Because consumers want to engage with your brand based on their terms. So they want to have all of that access readily available to them anytime, anywhere. The third point here is very interesting. See them as a person. I think that this really goes to what I had mentioned earlier about customer profiles. Understanding this individual as a person, what are their goals? What are their aspirations? Who are they connected to? So if we're thinking about financial institutions, we think about householding. How do we understand the bigger picture? Does this customer or member have family members that are becoming of college age? Will they need educational loans? What are their retirement goals? Really being able to understand them as a person, in just any industry is really important, but no more, it can't be any more important than in financial services. And then finally, is your institution providing them with advice, right? How do we build, wealth? How are my spending habits affecting my ability to save for retirement? Consumers are really expecting their financial institution to be providing them with value, right? So it's not just a place to, put my money or, transfer balance or pay bills or, save for the future. It's really, they're looking for additional value above and beyond the products that you sell, right? It really has to be about providing value to those customers. So it's no surprise to me that these were the top 5 customer wants. So I'm just trying to move forward here. There we go. So on the flip side of that coin, let's talk about what do financial institutions want. So it's really a fine line of, getting what you want as a financial institution and then meeting those consumer expectations. So what's the best way to do that, right? So within financial services, banks, credit unions, the culture of an organization really it kind of outweighs the importance of a strategy, right? If you have built a positive culture where you're turning your employees into brand advocates for your institution, you're going to have better results. Happy employees create better engagements with customers. So that makes the culture of an organization equally important as strategy. We want to make sure that the culture promotes positive engagements across the organization. Having to provide remarkable customer experience, because as we had mentioned, competition is coming in from multiple angles, right? And really, products start to look the same after a while, and sometimes the customer experience will truly be your only differentiator. The third point here is mastering owning of the entire client relationship. How do we get more share of a customer's wallet to ensure that we have that entire relationship with that particular customer? So if this person is coming in as a person that's got an auto loan through this financial institution, how do we go about getting their deposit accounts? How do we get them interested in mortgages through our institution? So how do we gain more of that client relationship and get them utilizing more and more products within our financial institution? Targeting high profit accounts, right? So the ability to understand what a customer lifetime value is, being able to create a profile of high profit accounts and then target them specifically. Where financial institutions are going to make their profits is when they're able to have these accounts that have the ability to grow, right? Not a single product, but those that have the ability to take advantage of a lot of profit, to bring in even more profits. And then finally, provide great returns for your investors, right? So investors are, they're never happy. They always want more, right? So how are we going to provide great returns for investors? And those investors could be external investors or credit unions. You can think of your member community as your investors. How are you, providing great returns for them? So these are what, this came out of another recent survey from the Emmerich Group, as what banking institutions want to achieve. So if we take a look at, at Creatio, what we believe the best way to meet consumer expectations as well as achieve, your business goals is really by aligning your processes and customer data on a single platform. Or, we hear this referred to as a single pane of glass at times. So it's hard for financial institutions to accomplish this. Customer or member data is typically housed in multiple systems. They're siloed. So things like core banking, lending, credit systems, the more diverse your product portfolio is, the more systems you have in place to kind of manage that customer data. There's also a plethora of processes that financial institutions have, right? So if you think about account opening, customer onboarding, underwriting, and most times these processes are connected in one way or another. So if you think of lending, a lending process has to go to underwriting, or something as simple as a lead, coming in and needs to be handed off to another department. So there's a lot of interconnected processes that need to happen within any financial institution. So we've aligned our products to address that specific need of banks and credit unions and other financial institutions. So this slide is a little busy, and that's because this kind of highlights exactly all of the different processes and all of the different things that need to be aligned across a financial institution. So if you look down the left-hand side, these are key banking processes, right? You have your typical CRM processes for sales, marketing, and service. How are you, managing those engagements with your customers? You'll also have all of those processes that we mentioned, right? So customer onboarding, account operations, lending, card operations. But then you'll also have, the middle and back office applications where you'll have those processes handed off. So underwriting, managing your product catalog, any compliance issues. And then finally, what we're finding within a lot of financial companies is that we also have to start to think about how we're supporting our internal employees. So when we talked about that culture, how do we keep our employees happy? Well, we treat those as internal customers, right? So how do we have our corporate services managed in a single pane of glass as well? So things like requests for time off or employee onboarding, creating tickets for IT, being able to support those all on a single tool as well, so you don't have to have multiple technology options for that as well. If we look in the middle, this is really where Creatio is covering off on all of these processes. So you can start to see, that everything we do starts with a 360-degree customer view. And then, you typically, for the processes that you see in the middle there, would have maybe multiple systems. So things for, maybe knowing your customer, anti-money laundering, you name it. You could have different applications and different processes to manage each one of these functions. So the idea behind having a process-driven CRM is combining all of this data into that single location. So your frontline employees or your middle office employees or your back office employees don't have to have that swivel chair effect, having to go from screen to screen just to get information regarding one specific customer engagement. Everything will be combined into the CRM, so that way you can access that data very easily in one application. So that also, cuts down on the ability to analyze that data as well, right? So unless you're utilizing, a data lake or some sort of master data management solution, how are you analyzing all of the data that's being collected in each one of these different systems or each one of these different processes? So having this all combined into a CRM will give you the ability to analyze this data to make those more effective predictions throughout that engagement with that particular customer. So we won't go through each one of these individually, but as you can see, we can cover multiple processes through CRM, so that way you don't have to have individual applications and siloed information across each one of these. And then finally, I had mentioned, the 5 orange bars that you see there on the right-hand side is just that. So once you have these profiles, you have all of this data from these processes in the middle. What can you do with that? Well, we just talked about analytics on that. We can also drive those applications to work together through business process management. We also can create custom workflows utilizing dynamic case management. So we can start to guide the users to the next best action or the next best offer within the CRM. We also, by combining all of this data and giving access, to this data across an organization, it's going to increase productivity and collaboration. So when everybody's reading from the same hymnal, we are able to create, better collaboration across, multiple departments, right? So now, people in business banking will know what the retail banking folks are working with, and having that data readily available to understand a true customer profile. And then finally, we talked about, the ability to integrate all data from multiple sources into a single location. So we talk about integration and synchronization. So, your CRM is never going to be your core banking system. It's not going to be your lending system. But what it is, it will enable you to integrate with those systems and bring that data so that it can be managed in a single location. So we accomplish this through, open source APIs. We have hundreds of out-of-the-box applications and connectors that are available on our marketplace to extend Creatio functionality into other third-party applications. So this can be real-time or near real-time integration between those, or batch upload, depending upon how your organization wants to have that data traveling back and forth. But again, this is a great way to start to have this have this view of all customer data in a single location. So that's how we go about, taking 10 different applications and bringing it into a single application. So just a little bit about the value for our bank. So we have 4 products that support this through the Creatio platform. We have a bank customer journey that will start to manage, all of the interactions that we have with that particular customer or member. So this will enable you to create better engagements with your customers, because you'll have an understanding of their history, their preferences, you name it. And we have a couple of great examples of that coming up in a few slides from now. Secondly is our bank sales. So this is really where we can start to build sales processes for a bank's corporate clients, right? So how do we create forecasts? How do we create pipeline? We have a full out-of-the-box capability for bank sales to address that directly in our platform. We also have out-of-the-box processes for lending. So we can try to fully automate the lending process, based on specific requirements. So within lending, there's a lot of manual and repetitive tasks. So how do we how do we eliminate that and automate that process to make sure that that is seamless to the customer. So we have out-of-the-box processes for lending, and then finally, we talked about marketing, right? So having the ability to create customer profiles and then deliver multi-touch targeted campaigns, so that way you can differentiate yourself from your competitors by specifically targeting individuals based on any data element that you're collecting within your CRM. So that could be demographic information, that could be website behavioral patterns, locations, you name it, any data element that we're collecting in CRM, we're able to segment customers and then target them with specific offers. And because we're built on a low-code platform, we're able to configure the tool based on specific business needs. So we're taking that low-code technology and enabling you to create custom applications, custom processes, custom user interfaces without needing any special coding skills. It's very intuitive. So we know that out-of-the-box processes are great to get up and running, but inevitably they will need to be configured for your specific business needs. And that's really where low code comes in as a true benefit for any organization, because you're able to adjust your applications very easily without having to rely heavily on IT or need any specialized coding skills or development skills to make that happen. You can make it very simple utilizing low code technology. All right, so that's just a little bit about the different processes and kind of our methodology on how we can go about taking data and creating a single profile that'll make it easier for your employees to work and engage with your customers. And we have some great examples of this. So again, I work with financial institutions all over the globe. So it's interesting to see, the different types of, consumer expectations in different parts of the world. So the first example I'd like to cover is OTP Bank. And OTP Bank is one of the largest banking groups in Central and Eastern Europe. They have 12 million customers and over 1,500 branches. So they're a great example of a financial institution that had siloed teams, processes, and customer data. And what they needed is they needed a tool that would bring all of these components together to simplify things like customer onboarding. And if you think of, maybe other different processes like loan origination, how are they going to cut down on the errors with bringing on those customers, ensuring compliance? And if you think about the scale, right, 12 million customers, this is a large task for any organization. But because Creatio had the ability to be configured easily to meet their specific processes, they were able to achieve this in a very short amount of time. So they were working with us to highlight several different areas. So they were able to create these customer profiles, and then they were able to take that data and create great marketing campaigns and interactions based on all of this customer data that they put together in a single interface. They also took advantage of our process management tools and capabilities to support their frontline employees to help them better interact with customers, right? So if people came into branch locations, They can start customer consultations very easily. They developed a great tool to streamline that process, both in person at the branch, but also if you were calling into their contact center as well. So the level of service that they're providing to their customers was very consistent, regardless of how their customers were engaging with them. And then finally, again, they utilized a lot of our out-of-the-box sales processes. So they have an approvals management process that they had put together. Typically this was a 5-stage process with a lot of manual documents and different things that needed to take place in that approval process. Because they were able to create a business process management approval process, they were able to cut that down tremendously and eliminate all of those manual tasks and setup. So when we talk about the business outcomes for them, they were able to make their employees more efficient. So they have over 850 employees that have access to the Creatio platform. So again, everybody is following those same processes. The service levels are consistent, so that leads to better customer satisfaction. But also, as I had mentioned, culture, right? So the ability to keep your employees happy when they're empowered with the tools that they need to support that customer engagement, it makes them empowered. That makes for happier employees, and happier employees create better engagements. And again, that's true with any industry, but we're talking about financial services where you face competition on a daily basis. So really, really important. So they also were able to create those processes and tie them back to their back office application. So the front office is having those consultation processes. Part of those consultation processes, as I had mentioned, maybe that's approvals, maybe it's loan to underwriting. They were able to link those processes from the front office to the back office seamlessly. To make sure that that flow of data, it was going back and forth. And then the third thing that they gained out of this platform was really the ability to reduce risk, right? Reduce errors, making sure that they were in compliance with each one of their engagements. So whether that's know your customer, anti-money laundering, they were able to reduce risk by having processes, specific workflows in place that enabled them to ensure that each one of those 850 employees had the process down within the system. They didn't need to think about the process because it was built in Creatio. Everything was guided, so they were able to be guided through that, which cut down on errors and eliminated risk factors within their processes. The next case study is Ent Credit Union, and Ent is a very interesting organization. I've spent a lot of time out with them in Colorado. So Ent is one of the top 5 credit unions within the United States, and they're very, thing about credit unions is that they are very supportive of their member communities, right? So you think about these members, they are actual, part owners in the credit union. So they really spend a lot of time focused on providing value to their members. They also had very aggressive growth plans within the markets that they serve. So they start off in one community and then they branch out into other communities. So they really wanted to increase, the number of customers that they have by expansion, but also they wanted to increase the amount of products that their customers own. So the ability to, again, grab that share of wallet. So they got engaged with Creatio because they had 2 specific business processes that they wanted to accomplish. First and foremost was indirect member onboarding. So if we think about what an indirect member is, that is a customer that goes out to, let's say, purchase a vehicle, and they get an auto loan through End Credit Union. But that relationship may stop there, right? So this individual knows that they have their auto loan through End Credit Union, but they didn't understand that because they have that auto loan there, they are also considered a member. And can start to take advantage of all of the other products that End has to offer. So deposit accounts, mortgages, loans. How do we target those individuals to make sure that they understand that they are a member? And they wanted to create a process where they would have some automated engagement with those individuals to educate them on the different products that were sold. Secondly, they had a process for working with their business banking customers. So understanding communications that have happened with their business banking customers, being able to service them and understand requests as they come in from them, who's working on what, how have they been engaged, how are they marketed to, and really understand that relationship. So they started off with just a couple of use cases that they wanted to accomplish through CRM, and they had again pretty aggressive growth plan. They wanted to make a decision on a CRM and then have it up and running within 3 to 4 month time frame. So they chose Creatio because we had the low code capability to create those custom processes that they were looking for. So through low code, they were able to create custom marketing campaigns, and then they were also able to have a record of all interactions with those customers, so they knew exactly what was happening. So they were able to deploy the first 2 use cases within 3.5 months. We were then also, because they saw the flexibility of the platform, they realized that Creatio can meet requirements across their entire organization. So what started off as, two processes, they were able to now see the benefits of the Creatio platform, and now they will be utilizing our platform as their member engagement. They're taking all of their information from core banking, lending systems, credit card systems, and having this be their single user interface across their entire organization. So if you think about their 2 original use cases, one was kind of service related, having the ability to understand their business banking customers, and then secondly, how do we market? But now, because they see the flexibility of being able to put all of the information into a single platform, they're starting to roll this out to all of their front office personnel as well. So being able to have this product available to their tellers, to their banking professionals within each one of their branch locations. This is going to be their system of engagement going forward. So Ent is a great example of an organization that is embracing this this technology to create better engagements with their members, but also help their individual employees utilize the system better. Oh, I'm trying to. Oh, there we go. So the next customer that we'd like to talk to or talk about is Oman Arab Bank. And Oman Arab Bank is one of the most innovative banks I think we've had the pleasure of working with. They constantly are evolving their retail banking products and experiences, their corporate financing offerings, and also they work within investment banking as well. So they have over 5 billion in assets under management. And again, another large user of our platform. They have over 800 users on the Creatio platform. A particular interest to Oman Arab Bank was they wanted to streamline their branch sales processes and increase their customer satisfaction Interesting, side note about Oman Arab Bank. Their branch locations are like walking into a five-star hotel. I mean, it is all about the experience. You come in there, everything is plush, everything is, really made to make you feel, that you're having an experience. So if you think about, that from that perspective, they really want to create these, stellar engagements with their customer. They had, to take the Creatio platform and fully integrate it across their technology stack. So core banking, card services, and they enabled their 800 bank representatives to have streamlined access to their customer data. Within their customer database, they have over 500,000 customers that are being managed in there. So think about the amount of data that's there and the gold mine of information that can be derived out of that, right? So they're managing over 500,000 customers in their database. And then they also were able to streamline processes for their front office customer engagement. So things like account openings, cards, etc. They were able to, one, have access to that full customer data, but then also on top of that, have access to streamlined processes that made that customer experience even better in those branch locations. Like I said, they really want to create these great experiences for their customers. So this is one organization that has really embraced that customer first approach. Because they were able to bring all of this data, they were able to better service their customers more efficiently. The requests that were coming in, were be able to handle by the banking professionals very easily, which led to higher customer satisfaction. They were also able to grow their revenue, per customer as well. So having that, so if we go back to what those top wants were of banks, right, is to how do we get more share of wallet from our customers? Because they were able to build custom profiles and have their banking professionals get access to that very easily, they were able to actually grow their revenue per customer. And then finally, they increased their operational efficiency because, again, those individuals did not have to think about how that engagement process should go with that customer. So every engagement, those 800 plus bank professionals were being guided to the next best action or the next best offer to the customer. So they were really able to increase their operational efficiency by handling customer requests and customer needs, very, very easily by guiding their professionals to the next best action or the next best offer. So these are three examples of how our customers were able to utilize the Creatio platform to better create engagements with their customers. And again, I think the biggest challenge in any financial institution is just that, right? We have so many different processes and so many different systems of customer record that it's hard to manage engagements with customers. So that's really where a process-driven CRM comes into play. We have the ability to combine all of that data into a single pane of glass and then drive that engagement based on the data that we've collected. And I think that any organization that is embracing, this type of technology is going to do, very well in keeping their customers, with their organization. Because as we've mentioned, competition is stiff out there. They have a lot of options of where they can go and, what they can choose for products at this point. So really what's going to keep your customers and gain new customers is, the experience that you're going to provide, to your customers. So with that being said, I'd like to open it up to questions at this point. So Corey, what do we have coming in from the audience?
Yes, thank you so much, Eric. As expected, a great overview of our banking products. You did an excellent job. So the questions that we've fielded, I'll start with our first one is, how does a financial services business how can CRM data build a more robust profile of an ideal prospect?
Yeah, great question. And I think that goes back to my my previous statement that when we're looking at customer profiles, we have to understand the entire customer journey, right? How have we interacted with them? What products do they own? What sort of agreements or contracts do they have with us? What does their household look like? All of this data, may be stored in different disparate systems. So where a CRM comes into play is we take that data, build the customer profile within CRM, and then also on the back end of that, have the ability to run analytics on that data. So we can create custom profiles, and then we can also utilize that data to understand how to better market to them. So that's really how CRM can benefit organizations and create those profiles.
Great, thank you so much, Eric. So our next question is, how do we increase internal collaboration between lines of business and regions to deepen customer relationships, drive referrals, and provide a consistent customer experience? It's a great question.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you think about all of the different components within a bank, right? So you have branch locations, which is a retail bank, but a retail customer that's coming in might also be a business customer. Maybe they're a business owner. So with all of these different groups within financial institutions, sometimes they're just operating independently. And the way that leads and communication flow, can be relied upon, who in that particular department, or you send an email off, from let's say a branch location to a business banker, and you're relying on email, to make sure that that lead is handed off. That's not very effective. So where we want to increase that collaboration and that communication across all departments is the ability to have everybody access customer data within a single user interface. So that's when we talk about collaboration, we want to be able to see customers' history across their entire journey with the bank. So if in that scenario someone comes into a branch location but is interested in a business loan, we can hand that off pretty seamlessly within the system, right? So we take in that customer's information, and rather than rely on email, we can have that a process that will drive that particular opportunity to the correct person within the bank. So and that goes beyond that. Again, that's just a very basic example, but that can be how do we start the loan origination process and then have that communicated to the back office and underwriting. So there's a lot of points of failure if you're not utilizing a system that maps everything and connects everything together.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Eric. Again, very helpful to our audience and to those of you who asked the question. Our next question is just in regards to regulations and compliance. So we need to remain compliant with regulations. How does the CRM help?
Yeah, great question. So financial services, are probably one of the most highly regulated industries in the world. I think it's probably a toss-up between healthcare organizations and financial service companies, but regulations are and compliance are constantly changing, right? There's new rules, new regulations, compliance issues that will pop up, month over month, year over year. And it gets very difficult to manage that, if you have a large organization, with 800 people interacting with customers. How do we ensure that compliance and regulation is being followed? Well, you do that by, through a CRM, you do that by building in that compliance process or that regulatory process directly into the interaction. So, maybe when a customer calls in, you have a compliance process to make sure that you verify that you're talking to this specific individual. If you have to rely on, each employee to adhere to that compliance requirement, you leave yourself kind of open to make sure, that, maybe these individuals, miss that step. But if you have a system that, has that built in and won't let you, move forward in the engagement process until you've completed that compliance aspect, this will ensure that you're following, that specific process, and that goes across, many things within the bank. So again, that could be know your customer, it could be anti-money laundering, compliance. We can start to build all of that directly into the CRM. And in fact, I had mentioned the marketplace earlier, we have many applications that are just available out of the box for that as well.
Great, thank you so much, Eric. Another question from the audience. How does Creatio handle the integration with a third-party application where multiple steps takes place and it depends on each other without coding?
Could you repeat the question again, Corey? I'm sorry, I was having a little trouble following it.
So I think what this question is trying to ask is how Creatio handles integrations with a third party while many steps are taking place with our low code, or while there's many other elements of our low code process that are taking place. So I think the wording here is a bit confusing. Yeah. So maybe we should move on to a different question.
We can. I could take a stab at it, and if it didn't answer the question properly, please just send in another request, and we'll be sure. If we don't get time on this call, we'll be sure to answer it after. But
yes, please.
Yeah, it sounds like when we talk about integrations and coordinating processes across multiple applications, we have a few different methods of handling that, right? So I had mentioned that we have fully open source APIs that will enable us to connect to third-party applications. So if you have a core banking system like from Fiserv or Jack Henry, we can build that integration with that third-party application. Then beyond that, we have the capability, to drive how we want to interact with that third-party application, and we can build, specific process flow for that data that's going back and forth between applications. So I'm hoping that this kind of answers that question. Because we have the ability to, one, connect, we also have the ability through our business process management engine to regulate how that data is going back and forth between applications. So that's my take on that question. But if it didn't answer it, please feel free to submit it, and we will do our best to answer that.
Yes, absolutely. All right, let's take another. What are the biggest benefits of using a banking CRM?
Yeah, so biggest benefits of using a banking CRM is, again, when we start to think about the specific processes that banks have. Typical CRM is driven towards Salesforce automation, right? They were designed, typically to manage pipelines, designed specifically to manage, opportunities and leads that are coming in. But because banking has so many diverse processes, having one that is specifically designed for those banking processes, again, whether that's lending, underwriting, customer onboarding, new account opening, all of these different processes, are kind of unique to lending institutions or financial institutions. So having these out-of-the-box processes will enable you to create those processes very very easily without having them be kind of customized in a CRM that's developed specifically for, again, sales automation, lead and opportunity management. These processes are, specifically designed for financial institutions. So banking CRM brings that to the mix. It allows you to utilize those processes out of the box rather than trying to fit a square peg in a round hole with a traditional CRM.
Excellent, Eric. That was really very helpful for our audience. I want to just, there's one more question that I think it would be great for us to answer, just given that we haven't, we haven't answered any questions about go-to-market yet, and kind of speaks about the current environment and what's going on in the world right now. So given the recent events, how do we plan out a go-to-market strategy?
So that's a great question, and again, I think that we are all feeling the effects of this crisis, and in a high-touch service industry such as financial institutions, they have to find new and unique ways of supporting their customers, right? So their branch locations are closed, outside of maybe drive-up service. So that limits the ability for, their customers to get, access to support. So they're being forced to, either do that online, call into a contact center, which is putting a strain on, those resources within the financial institution as well, right? So call volumes have gone up, number of inquiries coming in on, mobile applications or websites have gone up. So they really have to adjust to, those specific requirements that are coming in. So if the one thing this crisis has exposed is, broken processes within financial institutions. So, our go-to-market strategy really is, how can we help them continuously support their customers? And we can do that by enabling them to create, new and innovative ways of supporting those customers, through CRM. So whether that's, enabling them to self-serve, being able to submit service requests and then have that go directly into the CRM to be processed. We're going to market, to help organizations, stay afloat. Again, banking customers aren't going anywhere. They're a little different than, some other, organizations that, they may not have customers going forward, unfortunately, right? So, people are losing customers. Banks are not losing customers. Their customers will always be there. So they really need to, have the ability to support those customers. So I would say from a go-to-market strategy, we're doing our best to help our financial service customers stay afloat by creating new and interesting ways to support their customers, and also giving them, access to, best-in-class processes out of the box that can help alleviate some of that strain that's being put on their offline resources.
Great, Eric, that was, some great responses to some of our questions that we had here, an amazing overview of our particular capabilities that supports financial services and banking customers, and just a great webinar. So thank you to you. Thank you to our audience for participating and for making this an active discussion. Again, we will be following up with a recording of the webinar once we've finished everything up here, and we will be answering any unanswered questions offline to you in email. So thank you again for your time. We appreciate you joining us today and looking forward to having you on future webinars.
Yeah, thanks again, everybody. Stay safe.